Welcome to In or Out, the European Ultimate Federation live show about the European Ultimate Club season. I'm Rai Vasudevan. We got a great show today. We're actually not going to go through the rankings in that big of detail because that's all done. What we're going to do today is actually look at the EUCF and go through pool by pool. And now that the random pop draw has happened, figure out who's actually going to be facing who in the first pools of the EUCF. I'm going to have a couple guests coming later. I'll introduce them in a second. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. EUF is looking for volunteers for the European Ultimate Championships finals. So if you're interested in coming to the EUCF and volunteering, you can follow the QR code here or go to that link there. And if you want to go to Ostend and take part in the most premier club season tournament of the year in Europe, go ahead and do that. Additionally, EUF is also looking for hosts for next year's event so that we can do all the tours, all the summer tours and spring tours and everything, and make sure that we can host a great season again, following up after this first initial try we did this year. So if you're interested in that, if you want to make sure your travel costs are lower, the easiest way to do that is to host a tournament. Go to this link here at the bottom of the screen or click on the QR code at the top left. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my guests here. We've got Christian Gaffney of Wall City, not really playing for them anymore, but now bringing his talents to the commentary booth, and Rahel Toshnarova from 3SB, who is both a commentator and still playing. So going to be a bit interested to see how these pools shake out, representing 3SB there, and representing the fact that we always throw shade at 3SB and them being overranked every episode of the show that we do. First off, I'm curious, before we go into this, how both of you experienced this season. I know, Christian, you only played for about half of it, but I'll start with Rahel. You are a leader, I think, on your club and managed to navigate your way to a top 4 seed. I'm curious how you felt this year. It was a very different season, and how you and 3SB handled it.
So we did start planning early. That's for sure. I was trying to actually gather some information from the teams from our region to see what they were doing and what tournaments they were going to count to make sure that we kind of set things up well from the start, even though obviously it wasn't that clear how the algorithm fully works, etc. And I got very little response. So I was like, well, we're just going to do our best. And it turned out great for us. Obviously, we got very lucky in a sense that we just got to play the right games and the right teams at the right times, honestly. But we did initially think at the start of the season, we thought we would enter more tournaments and use them towards the ranking. And that actually didn't end up being the case, because as it got proven later on, we realized that, the less the probably better for now. So we just counted our first tournament and our last tournament of the season. Yeah. So and different, obviously, last year I wasn't playing, my sister wasn't playing, and we had 2 other key players, so to speak, injured on the sideline. But it has actually helped us tremendously, I think, to have that season, as it would be for any other team, I think, to help the newer players step into the more experienced and more important roles on the team. So it's worked out great. I hope it carries on towards the end.
And how did you find playing in this system? Was it very confusing? Was it very fun? Like, what was your overall impression as a player?
So I felt a little bit bad after the first tournament, because I've had some players from other teams that I know come up to me and be like, oh, this is so, how are we going to get our 10 games in? We cannot go to this tournament because it's too far. We cannot go there because it's too expensive. And it's a struggle that every team faces all the time. I mean, obviously there's even more pressure now, but it's just, I think it really comes down to proper planning. Like, it's not that we don't want to organize tournaments closer to us. It's just so difficult to find a venue that would, make sense travel wise for everyone, that wouldn't be like in the middle of nowhere. But I think it's all going to settle. From the start I had 2 people on it. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Nilla. Our mathematicians on the team figuring everything out. We did look into it properly, and we were aware of it all the time. It's just like that one extra thing that might add to the mental load of a captain or anyone that's in the leadership of a team to think about. Each point counts, blowout rules, etc. So it does take a bit of an extra effort to do it, but obviously, since it has worked out so nicely for us, we're more than satisfied with the system. However, that might change in the future, and I might regret my statement. Hopefully not, though.
We'll see. Christian, so as I mentioned before, you played, I think, up through Elite Invite, basically, and I think then didn't do anything else with Wall City within the system. But how, maybe you can speak a bit from I know you're pretty keyed into the Berlin community, how they felt about this system and this new way of playing.
I can say that they were very upset on Saturday night after the summer tour when they dropped precipitously in the rankings. A lot of griping back at the Airbnb. I'd been commentating with you all day, so it was sort of a fan of the algorithm. So I had to sort of talk them down off the ledge, tell them to win their games the next day. Everything was going to be okay. And they did, and it worked out. They got their top 4. But as someone who's just a fan of Ultimate, I thought the algorithm was very exciting. I obviously felt very sad for the Heidis who just missed it by 1 point. I'm a friend of all of them and had to watch them sort of fall apart in these last couple points. And you could feel this sort of gut-wrenching feeling of like, oh no, I think they might be dropping out right now.
Against your own team, even. So it was all kinds of conflicting emotions.
Against Wall City, sure. And I texted the captains, can't we just give them 1 point? And, they were too busy playing. And no, but I think it's, I felt better about Wall City's chances of just proving themselves over the course of a season and having the algorithm sorted out correctly than having 5 good teams in the Central Division for 4 spots, say, where you feel like anyone could get the short end of the stick and maybe have an unlucky year.
All right. Well, we're going to go into it and look at the pools. We're going to go, I believe, women's, mixed, and then open, if that was the order, if I got that right. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to go pot by pot. So basically, we're going to start with the 1 seeds, since those were locked in the last show. So everyone should already know who the 1 seed of pool A, B, C, and D is, but we'll recap that for everybody. Then we'll go and start at the 4 seed and reveal who all the 4 seeds are and move our way up through the 3 and the 2 seeds. So we'll gradually build up the pools that way. Since we are going to start in the women's division, one note since the last show is that Smog Women decided to not take their bid. And that means that Jet Set Love, who a lot of people I remember in the chat were crying for because they played hard all season and counted so many games and just missed out quickly. They actually got the spot in the end, and Jet Set Love will be at the EUCF. So if you see them and you're wondering why they're there instead of Smog, that's why. They can get right into it. And we'll start with the women's division. And the top 4 seeds, as we all kind of knew from beforehand, rank 1 at Pool A. A1 is Yaka from Noisy-le-Sec. Then we go to Pool B. We got BFD Shout. And Pool C, 3SB, representing here with Rahel. And Pool D, Jinx Midnight. Christians in some way representing from the Berlin side. Those are top 4 seeds. Not much to say here, but well, I don't know. We can start here. I mean, how did people? I was the only one here for the final ranking, but maybe I can start with you, Rahel. How do you see this as the top 4? Does this feel right to you as a women's division player? Can you stay a little unbiased for yourself and tell me what you see here?
I was told I was invited here to cause some controversy, so I don't know about unbiased. No, I am actually going to be the mature mother of a child I am now. I have become, and I'm going to say that as much as I am pleased to stay with those 3 teams in the top of the pools, I believe it is representative of the recent developments in the women's division. These teams have been at the top of European Women's Ultimate, and it just proves that they are used to winning. They are mentally prepared to win. They are comfortable with the leader position of the division. And I hope, and I strongly believe that all the other teams that are right behind them are going to use this season to get just into that mindset.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that, and I think that when we get eventually to the 2 seeds here, that when we get to the quarterfinal rounds of the women's division, I think it's going to be one of the most exciting quarterfinal rounds we have, because yes, I think there are some teams that are, like you say, leading the division, but I think that the other teams have shown that on a single game, things could definitely change up. Christian, since we see a Berlin team up here, I'm curious what your thoughts are seeing Jinx Midnight with the Pool D 1 seed, and just seeing the top set of teams.
Well, since Raquel is being the mature adult, I'll take the role of the immature man-child and start stirring things up. I think honestly that there's sort of a big 3 in the women's division this year, and I would exclude 3SB from that big 3. That being said, I don't have a wealth of evidence. This is sort of just personal bias and old news coming together in a sort of mind that doesn't want to change. But I do think that Jinx will be, looking, if things hold seed, they'll be looking at that semifinals against Yaka with a little bit of anticipation and probably a little bit of fear on both sides. Not the semi either team probably wanted.
All right. Okay, let's go. This is stuff we already knew. So let's start looking at the 4 seeds here in this pool. In these pools. So Pool A. The 16 seed gets in there, so that's Jet Set's Love finding their way inside, ranked 16 in the ranking. Pool B gets the 14th ranked team, which was Box Vienna. Pool C, waiting with bated breath, we got Fabulous Burn. I was watching for Rahel's face during the Pool C reveal every time. It's going to be a fun one. Pool D. Last one is Woof from Bruges. So now we're starting to see this here. I think start with Rahel. What's your first thoughts seeing this set of teams?
So obviously we have 2 teams that I have played recently at the summer invite. That would be Box and Fab. Jet Set I have played throughout the season, or our team has played throughout the season, and Wolf we haven't seen so far. They stole the show at summer invite. Chambéry, exactly. So home ground, who knows? Jet Set, I am so delighted for them to be able to make it. When I saw it on Instagram, I was like, what, how, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh yeah, Smog dropped out. So that is also amazing, because first of all, I mean, 2 Belgian teams making their way in sort of last second, and then we still have Moon Cup, so that is so impressive as one not that big of a country to have 3 teams in the women's division. It's absolutely impressive, even though it was like a last second pop in. Box and Fab, I don't think Fab had everyone at summer invite. They only had like 14 players total, maybe even less. So I really wonder what their final roster is going to look like, because they do have a lot of experience and a lot of fast young blood on their team as well. So I think they're aiming higher than this. And so is probably Box, but I will have to wait for the rest of the polls first.
I'm just quickly checking on my site, which I will, to see if if these teams have matched up before. So I do see, yes, Shout beat Box 15-9 at Elite Invite. They have played each other. As you said, 3SB and Fabulous
we only played them, at Trnava.
Yeah, you also played them at Vienna Spring Break. You beat them
Right.
15-11 at Vienna Spring Break, and you
Right.
beat them 13-8 at Summer Tour Trnava.
But Vienna was a windy game and
Mhm.
one of the first games as well. And Trnava, we played them the first game of the tournament, and they were still healthy and happy and with enough people. It was a different case on Sunday.
Well, just to say, these teams have not matched up with each other, and Jets, Jinx, and Wolf have not matched up. So, yeah, I think that's enough. Let's go. Let's open up the 3 seeds before I give Christian a chance to talk about the pools. We'll get things
Christian
moving a
doesn't
little bit.
even know anything about the women's division. We can
Christian
skip
knows
him
plenty
altogether.
about the women's division.
Shots
he
fired.
just knows
That is
about,
not true.
He just knows what Jinx looks like from the sideline. That's about it. Okay.
And their myriad opponents.
All right, Pool A, the 3rd seed in Pool A. Ranked number 10, Ketchup Graz. Pool B, number 12, LMU from London. Pool C, watch for Rahel's face. Ranked number 9, Bristol from the UK. Ooh, that was an interesting reaction every time. And Pool D, 3 seed is Troubles from Warsaw. So, Christian, I'll let you take your first crack while Rahel processes everything and sees her life flash before her eyes as these pools develop. What do you see for these pools starting to shape up?
Obviously, I think the most interesting narrative here comes from the angle of Jinx, Raquel, which is that Troubles beat Jinx decisively towards the end of the season 15-10. So I think anyone who's just browsing the standings will think this is a big shakeup. This is worrisome for Jinx. As someone with the insider goss, I know that Jinx was coming to that exhibition game with about half their team with the goal of just making sure they had a 10th game. So I wouldn't read into it too hard, but Troubles has a lot of strong players, and that should be a great game either way. And then I think Bristol is probably the team I'd be looking to avoid in this grouping of 3 seeds. Got a lot of strong players.
That is so interesting.
That's the team I'm looking for. I was playing Sandslash with Laurel Piper, who's an absolute unit. She switched over from the mixed division last year, and there's a lot of strong players on that team. So I still back 3SB, a very strong, capable 1 seed, to beat them handily. But I think that's the most interesting pick in this round.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Jinx Troubles won. The 15-10 win the Troubles had over Jinx on Jinx's home soil. So they don't have too many excuses for not bringing their whole team. But yeah, that's the interesting one. If I looked back, I didn't see too many matchups that had already existed between the 1 seeds and these 3 seeds already. Rahel, any thoughts you have as the pool start to shake up here?
I want to hear more about the Troubles Jinx game. We haven't had much information before, besides some Instagram stories. Was that a full team for Jinx?
Not even close. I'd say missing 5 of the top players. Yeah, I wasn't there either, actually. I was out of town. But nobody on Jinx was sweating it, I don't think, except insofar as it had the potential to knock them out of the top 4 in the algorithm.
I mean, I've heard something slightly different from some of my Berlin contacts, that actually Jinx did have a decent sized team, but that it was actually quite windy and played on hockey turf, and that was maybe threw some weirdness into how the game was played, and Troubles and Jinx just wasn't playing super well. If I look at the Jinx Midnight's roster that was submitted, I see Nikki Prian, I see Katharina Schultz, I see Anna Gerner, I see Marlene Mückstein, I see Greta Meliga, I see Leif Kowalczak. I see a lot of players that I would consider some of the top players on Jinx. So I'm not going to give them too much slack as you are, Christian, from at least what they reported was their roster for that event. But yeah, I think that was, from what I heard, a game where Jinx didn't play that well and Troubles did play super well, and maybe they had different things to play for. But we'll see. Well, we're going to prove it in Ostend and see how they handle it. I do know that might be a windy location from what I heard, so maybe that favors how Troubles plays if that was a factor in the previous round.
So
All
anyway,
right.
I think now is the time, Robbie.
No.
These are not the teams that I have seen in the pools this morning. What do you have to say about that?
So Rahel did send us a message that apparently, and maybe some of you at home also saw, That there was some things showing up on the rankings page that weren't supposed to show up, and that was kind of like a test run. It wasn't supposed to go up, wasn't supposed to be public. And when we noticed that that one was leaked, we decided that in case people saw that and would see the show, we decided to reshuffle it. It was random then, it's random now. Well, we don't think it was. It's not particularly to hurt or help any teams, but yeah, that's what happened, and yeah, I think things might have shaken out a bit differently in the first set, but that's how random pot draws work. I think we'll have a chat at the end about how people at the end of the show about how you all think about doing this random pot draw. If you think it's a good idea, or maybe we should do it a bit differently. But
like I would just like a random suggestion that comes into mind is just like do it once. I don't know.
Well noted, Rahel. We will take that into consideration for next year. Okay, let's go into the 2 seeds and finish out the women's division. Pool A, we get Moon Cup as the 2 seed. Pool B, Iceni as the 2 seed. Pool C, Hrut from Amsterdam as the 2 seed. And Pool D, East Block from the Czech Republic, your country women there, Rahel, coming in as the 2 seed for Pool D. So now things are really shaking up here. We're going to get the Hrut 3SB, which I believe was that the semifinal of Windmill. That was that matchup happened there. We'll get a rematch of that one. And yeah, we get some French-speaking action in Pool A with Yaka and Moon Cup, Shout Iceni, and then yeah, East Block, Jinx. So some intrigue here, and this is now the women's division. This is how the UCF is going to start things off. Rahel, how are you? How are you feeling over there? You look like you're processing.
I'm just tired of things happening unexpectedly that I have no control over, and I would just wish that I could, for once, come with some good news for my team.
The good news is you get to play elite European competition.
We get to play against Aurora, which originally started her elite career with 3SB. So we will be looking forward to that. She's a beast. And as I said, I absolutely believe that any of the teams all of the teams are able to reach semis at least, and some of the, let's say, top 6 teams are all in the mix for winning the tournament, because they have been attacking those lead positions for a long time. And honestly, looking at the whole spectrum right now, like I said, I already pointed out the 3 Belgian teams. I think that's very impressive. I also want to shout out to East Block, because we have 2 Czech teams, also not a huge community and a huge country, and 2 teams ranked so high up is a big success. And I'm also glad to say that we've been working with them on keeping a friendly competition. It is often the case in the countries where there's only few elite teams that when there's just 2, it's sort of like one or the other, and there's a lot of rivalry. So we were trying to keep it healthy and kind of friendly. So I'll be definitely cheering them on for in their group. Same with the other teams from the region. So I think it's just great to see the teams coming back in time and time again, season after season. I know how much it takes to collect enough elite women's athletes that do all have the kind of passion to go for it over and over again, and to keep the roster steady. So just, hoot up, or hat off, as the Germans say, to all the leadership and all the female athletes that keep pushing and making the women's division better and better every year. And it's so even. I'm really excited to play everyone.
Nice. I just checked within these groups. I looked for if there were any 1-2 matchups that have happened yet this season. And actually, the only one is Yaka Moon Cup. Well, 3SB did play Hrut, but that was unranked as 3SB didn't count Windmill. So I checked that, yeah, Yaka did beat Moon Cup 15-12 at Elite Invite. But aside from that, these are all, let's say, new matchups as the top two. So that's also exciting because you never know how things are going to shake out with two teams that haven't played each other all season. Christian, you're seeing this maybe a bit from the Jinx perspective, but also a bit from the zoomed out perspective. How do you see this this women's division now that it's all shaped up?
I think the women's division is the one I'm looking forward to the most. I really think it's wide open as to who could win it. 5 or 6 contenders. I hate to keep adding insult to injury here for Raquel, but I think Hrut are really the big spoiler here. They played Jinx incredibly close at Windmill. Jinx needed a huge comeback to win that game. I think they're a very strong team.
So did we.
So,
we played Jinx close at Windmill too.
yeah, and that's why you're a deserving 1 seed, who I'm not worried about. But I do think that I would expect that to be the most interesting pool. Pool D may be coming in second with the most upset potential, from 3-2, from 2-1. Don't know much about Wolf, so I can't say beyond that, but I really think it's going to be a bloodbath from the quarterfinals on. There's a lot of teams you want to avoid. And whoever is the champion this year is, I don't know, gets an extra gold star for difficulty, I'd say.
I do want to mention that one thing that I just noticed is that Iceni and LMU are both in the same pool, which basically LMU is like 95% the last generation of Iceni. So I think that's going to be an interesting one because I think they can have the upper hand or whatever, but LMU also has experience playing at this level more than maybe some of the athletes on Iceni do. So it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up and how they can prepare and play well at the EUCF level. Another thing I see at Moon Cup and Jet Sets, we have 2 Belgian teams in one pool. With some of these countries that have many teams in it, it's a little unavoidable for that to happen. And with the random pot draw, it's always possible. I'm penciled in for, I think that East Block Midnight game will be great. Hrut 3SB going to be great. All the 1-2 matchups here I think are going to be really fun and competitive. Moon Cup Yaka, I know that there's a little bit of rivalry-ish there with some of the French players that have, a lot of top French players go to play with Yaka, but I think there are some French players that went and played with Moon Cup maybe because they prefer that side to the Yaka side. So there might be an interesting French francophone battle there. So very interesting matchups. I'm super excited about this division and super excited to see how these pools are going to shape up. Just to remind everybody, there will be pool winners will get to move directly to the quarterfinals, and then 2 and 3 of the pool play in a pre-quarter. I forget exactly which pools match up to which other pools. So what 2 and 3 match up? Maybe Nemo, if you know that, you can put that in the chat. Whether it's AC or BD or whatever. And if you lose the pool, you end up going to the 9-16 bracket. So then you're kind of out of contention for our championship. So you have something to play for at every stage of pool play, which is also very exciting. Another note here, Nemo mentions in our private chat here is how is Worlds going to affect things? So we mentioned this on the last show. We have some teams here like Jinx, Yaka, even Moon Cup has a few French national team players, Iceni, Shout for sure, that are going to have lots of players that are probably very focused this year on peaking right now. As we're streaming this, I think it's about 4:30 a.m. In Australia, so I don't know if anybody over there is tuning into this show right now. Hopefully they're not and sleeping and getting ready for their games. Maybe they're watching it over breakfast on the VOD. And then there's other teams like Hrutz, 3SB, East Block, and maybe more of Moon Cup that are more players that are focused more on the EUCF compared to these other ones. So I don't know whether that will be, I think for some types of players, I think it depends on the individual. It could be an advantage because you're super hyped up and you're in really good shape and you're just, you put a bit extra effort in this year because you're going to Worlds. Some other players, maybe they had disappointment at Worlds. Maybe they had maybe they had a really success at Worlds, but whatever, they really peaked emotionally and mentally in that moment. And then they have to like kind of fade out and very quickly come back and play EUCF. I'm curious, yeah, Rahel, what do you think how that would influence you as an athlete? Whether you would have to do that or not. Do you think it's an advantage, disadvantage? And maybe how it would affect the women's division?
I think it's very individual. It depends on what type of athlete you are.
So
I know
what kind
people,
of athlete are you?
To me, I'm pretty sure it would be no bother really. It would just get me more reps, I guess. I would be able to handle both mentally, but there are some people who get burnout easily. And I don't know how much of it, like, obviously I can only speak for myself, kind of finding the women's side of 3SB and bringing it to Euros and kind of like, being there the whole time. Whereas if you're a rookie who's only been on a team twice, you might not have as much, I don't want to say like, basically you don't breathe for the team as much, and maybe your goals are more individual oriented, or maybe you're a pickup player on that team. So the world's thing might affect you more in that sense, that you care a bit less about Euros. So very difficult to say. Also, the conditions, I think, might be quite different. If it gets rainy in Belgium, then
Seems like it's going to be windy in both places. That's the only thing I know that will be the same. Okay, let's move on. I think we've talked a lot about the women's division. Great to see these pools. Let's go to the next one. We'll go into the mixed. The mixed division. So we'll start with the top seeds again. Pool A, ranked number 1, TC Taucher from Munich. Pool B, ranked number 2, Deep Space from London. Pool C, the third ranked, Seskidistis from Strasbourg. And rounding out the top seeds is Pool D, the Leamington Lemmings. I think this is probably the division that our guests know maybe the least about, but curious what you have to say about this, Christian.
I would say that the Tiefse Tausche have had sorry, that was my German slipping out. They've had a very impressive season, dominant performance, really like what they've been doing this year. And I think all of these are deserving 1 seeds. All of them have a chance to win the tournament. No scrubs here.
All right. Let's go to the 4 seeds then. In Pool A, we have Savage Ultimate from Poznan, Poland. Pool B, Heck from Edinburgh. Pool C, we have Skyvis from Warsaw. And Pool D, we got the Rangers from Padova. So one thing I already noticed, we have the Heck Deep Space UK battle. We have 2 Polish teams here. Rahel, I don't know if you have any insight onto, since you're a bit more into the East region, about how these Polish teams have come up, because these aren't names that I typically know at the EUCF level. Do you know anything about that?
Unfortunately, I'm not even going to pretend I know anything about the mixed division.
Yeah.
As much as I love to play mixed, I only indulge at the national scene. So I know there's still a lot of great players on the Polish ultimate scene, and I do know that they love their mixed play. So there's a lot of great mixed tournaments, and Warsaw is a big city, in case people didn't know. So it's good to see new teams on the slide as well, and we will just have to wait how it plays out at the EUCF.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the 3 seeds. In Pool A, number 12, Pook from Paris. Pool B, number 11, Pelt from Limerick, getting a lot of Emerald Isles, a lot of UK, Ireland stuff in Pool B. Pool C, we got Nulacht from Munster. And in Pool D, we have Glasgow from the UK. I mean, there are a lot of UK and Irish teams in this division, so it does make sense that some pool is going to be a bit heavy there. Yeah, Christian, anything step out to you looking at this? Any matchups that are interesting you see here?
Well, Nulacht and Glasgow, I think, are the highest ranked of these teams. So this is not where they would traditionally have gone if it was a snake style draft. So making it a little bit more difficult for pools C and D. But no, I think all of these teams are playing the role of spoiler. And I would say that since my knowledge is limited, I'm going to say that as a graphic designer, best logo goes to Puck. Clear, concise. It's a P. Makes a lot of sense. Whereas the other ones are a bit hard to read at this scale. Yep.
I will note that Nulacht and Seski have played each other twice. They played each other at Elite Invite, where Seski won 15-5, and then they played each other again at the Summer Tour in Freiburg, where it was 15-11. So Nulacht, I think, climbing their way and maybe trying to see if they can overcome that Strasbourg mountain later on in the season when they meet them at maybe the final time of the year. Looking at other places, I'm wondering, Lemmings and Glasgow must have played each other, and Lemmings did beat Glasgow on Universe 11-10, so that might be a close, tight matchup there. Two teams that probably know each other really well. That was at the Summer Tour in Birmingham, so very late in the season they matched up within 1 point. Deep Space and Pelt. Just have a quick look. No games there, and I don't know if TFC Taucher and Munich and Puck played each other. Yes, they did, and that was a 15-6 win for TC Taucher in the spring tour in Padova. So I'm definitely, that Glasgow Lemmings matchup seems like it's going to be quite an interesting one, and maybe Nulacht starting to get to know Seski, that can be nice that as they climb up towards that opponent. So interesting things there. Let's finish things out here with the 2 seeds in the mixed division. Pool A, we have the 5th rank team. That's not usually always the way it goes with the 5 seed in the in Pool A, but that's how it goes with the pot draws. Reading joining Pool A. Pool B, we've got Disconnection, Freiburg. Pool C, the 7th ranked team, Tartu Turbulence. And then Pool D, Mosquitoes from Austria. I know that they're taking this campaign seriously. I think I'll start by giving my thoughts since people guests here don't know the division that well. One thing I would note is I think the Mosquitoes have been quite strong this year, and I would actually think they have a chance to be spoiler in that pool and win that. I don't know if they played Lemmings yet this season. Let's give a quick look to that. Don't think so. No, they have not played each other, but. Yeah, that's one that I think could be definitely penciled in. And if I'm Lemmings here, they did win Elite Invite, and they did quite well this season to get themselves a 1 seed. But I know the Mosquitoes are very strong, and Glasgow seems to have pushed them to Universe in the most recent game. So pretty scary Pool D, I would imagine that could go any which way. Pool C, Tartu Turbulence, we know Estonian team, very, very strong, especially have two huge stars in Helen Terra and Jakob Tom. I'm actually not quite sure if Helen Terra is going to be playing at the EUCF. I've heard rumors she might not be around later this season. That would definitely make them quite a bit weaker than they have been so far. But if they have her, then that's always a group of athletes that you have to deal with. And if they're red hot and on fire, they could take basically any team just with those 2 players alone. Freiburg, Disconnection, been a traditional, very strong team, and probably have a good chance to do something against Deep Space. And then Reading, like I said, usually the 5 and 1 seeds don't match each other in pool play, but now TFC Taucher will at least have the hardest matchup they could have gotten in their pool. So some interesting matchups, I think. Any thoughts from you all?
Ravi, I opened up a tab that I think should make me look a lot smarter than my last answer. Reading, did you know, Ravi, got 3rd last year in the mixed division, and that's obviously with Groot dropping out. So they would have been the 2nd best team from last year. So I think TFC Taucher will be disappointed with that draw. And then Disconnection have had a sort of season full of a lot of close losses. I think people might be sleeping on them. They're a historically great program out of Freiburg, but they've just lost a ton of games against top teams by 1 or 2 this year. So their record is not something to fear, but I think their past performance and reputation is. They got 5th last year in the division, and I wouldn't be excited to face them either in my pool.
Yeah.
My only note would be that, like you said, mosquitoes have been building up to this moment for quite some time, and I am very, very excited to see the young players make their first mark among the mixed elite. I would also like to say that the Irish always love a good fight against their British opponents. So
Yeah, they
I'm
always
pretty
bring it.
sure that Pelt is going to bring their best game in Pool B, and they could even maybe get mix things up basically, and that could potentially help this connection. And then it is definitely worth mentioning that Tiefse Taucher opened up their season with a nice home game against 3SB Mixed, who are preparing for Czech nationals in the mixed category, which they won, and we beat them.
Okay.
So there's that, Christian.
So they do have a loss on their season. They also did, which I think is interesting. I think they came 5th at German nationals. They lost to
Correct,
a
yeah.
Colorado team that had Steph Doscher, who was not playing with Colorado in the EUCS. So you might be surprised that Colorado didn't qualify for EUCF, even though they were playing in this division, and then was a team that beat Munich. I think I thought it was Munich's only loss of the season, but Rahel is now correcting me that there was at least one other loss that they took to the Czechs. Yeah, I think this is going to be Milan asking if there was any proof of it. Not believing you, Rahel. Okay, any final thoughts here on the mixed division, or should we move on to the last one? I think we can move on. Let's go to Open. So again, starting with the 1 seeds, we've got, that should be Mooncatchers. Sorry, it's a typo there. Moon Cup is not playing Open this year. Pool B, we have Clapham from London. Pool C, we've got BFD La Fota from Bologna. Pool D, Wall City, Berlin. So I think that this was, we knew quite about this. My only note here is, I think when I had Lorcan on to reveal this, I mentioned that maybe some people think that the Mooncatchers Clapham combo isn't really that representative, given that Clapham has played most of their ranked games with about half a team, and when they play them at full strength, like they did at Windmill, they actually did quite well. But we'll note that of course, this isn't exactly one-to-one comparison. That Belgium Open early this morning, our time, did beat GB, I think 15-10 in the stages there in Australia. So getting one back on the Brits, and I think I think a lot of people have these two teams kind of penciled in as the top 2, with La Fota, of course, being able to spoil there, and Wall City trying to sneak their way in. But it's gonna be interesting at the top here. What's your thoughts here, Christian? As you said, Wall City clawed their way to a top 4. How are you feeling?
Well, I like their chances against Moon Cup over Mooncatchers, but order has been restored in the second chance. That's something to think about for next year in the algorithm. Maybe one random swap between the divisions could be really exciting. I think you said it right. There's a top 2 that are looking really strong, trading wins against each other for the past couple of years. I think La Fota and Wall City have a chance to play spoiler. Both teams very strong. Anything can happen in any given game. But I think the seeding in the top 4 looks exactly right to me, I'd say.
Okay. Let's bring things up and see what 4 seeds have to face these terrible, scary 1 seeds. Pool A, we got ranked number 16, which is no good, who just clawed their way in past Heidi's by 2 ranking points, which is basically 1 point anywhere in the season. In Pool B, Quixotes from Madrid. Pool C, we've got Bad Skid from Heilbronn. And Pool D, Grutz from Amsterdam, the 13th ranked team. So here we go. Here's how things have shaken up here. Again, I think in the women's division we had Moon Cup and Yaka together, and now we see Mooncatchers and is no good together. So Noisy-le-Sec and Brussels going to have two battles open things up here at the EUCF. Rahel, I know you're not the biggest Open Division fan, but do you notice anything interesting with this one, or?
I do. I
Okay.
can't really look at my face anymore, knowing that I might have screwed it not only for the women's side, but also the open side. So here's a great idea. How about I call John down here and he can stay with my name tag, and it's going to be way more fun for everyone, and I'm not going to cry on a streamed live show.
Well, if John wants to come down and have a chat, he's definitely welcome to if you think that's
Johnny,
a better.
bring the baby and yourself.
While that's happening, Christian, you tell me about how you feel that Wall City have to get this Hrut matchup in their pool.
I don't think Wall City will be sweating Hrut. I think they're a very good team, as you personally know. But I think this division of all of them probably has the most chance for spoilers from the 4 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's probably the deepest division just because of the historical sort of gender imbalance in the sport. And that just means that Bad Skid is, has been a top team for a decade now, and they have championship pedigree. I wouldn't want them in my pool. Quixotes are probably the best beach tournament at this whole beach team at this whole tournament, rather. But I personally, in my ultimate career, have lost to each of these teams or the players on these teams multiple times. So while Wall City is certainly better on average than me, as are all the teams in the top 4, I think anything can happen in this men's division. These 4 seeds could definitely spoil a 3 seed, definitely spoil a 2 seed. I wouldn't have any of them over their 1 seeds, but it should make for an interesting division dynamic where everyone's gunning for a crossover spot for sure.
Yeah, I just did a quick scan, and I don't think any of these teams have played each other yet this season. So that's another interesting wrinkle. So yeah, it'll be brand new matchups for everyone. Yeah, I think this is also interesting because this is the first year that we are going to a 16-team open division at the EUCF. It was 24 teams up until this year. So that means that we're kind of crunching the talent level. So 4 seeds are a lot more dangerous than they were in previous years. So we're welcoming John Dock with Rahel's name to his right below him.
All right.
Well, we'll get you. I don't know how that happened.
Not me.
Okay, so I'll get your thoughts when we get let's get the 3 seeds in first, and I'll get your first thoughts at these pools. So Pool A, we've got the 12 ranked team XVI. Pool B, Gentle. Pool C, we got Ranelagh. And in Pool D, Costa Rica Grandes from Rimini. Let's take a look and see how things shape up here. I will note one thing that pops out to me immediately is that I believe Gentle did beat Clapham at the Elite Invite in the semifinal, but of course, like we said, Clapham was missing about half their team. So, yeah, John, since you're here, your team still hasn't shown up yet. So what I'm most curious about, actually, before we go to anything else, which pool would you want to be at? Which pool would you most like to be in out of these 4 pools?
If I get Pool A, I don't have to do any more scouting because we already know these teams. I get Pool B, that's a rough group. That's a lot of preparation. Gentle as the 3rd seed is all I wanted to avoid, actually. I saw the groups that were supposed to be posted this morning. I was just happy we didn't get Gentle. Yeah. I won't really know my honest opinions until I see the last ones. So the pools I had this morning were basically exactly what I was like, this is amazing. Our luck continues. And now I'm just waiting to see it all fall apart. And,
yeah. We'll see. All right. So aside from 3SB's perspective, are there any matchups here that you find spicier, interesting, things we maybe know from history or whatever?
I mean, like the Gentle Clapham one is obviously the top one. Gentle were at Elite Invite this year. They're underseeded. Playing the tougher games caused them to get a bit of a lower seed. I would have liked to see Isno good in that group, actually, with Clapham. They seem to always cause them problems. So, yeah, I feel like that's... I don't know, Bad Skid are a bit of a weird team when they're in that group with Rana, but I feel like Gentle maybe in Belgium is the only one that strikes me as a possible upset right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious. You as an Irish original native, of course, been living in the Czech Republic for a while. How do you feel about XVI getting into the UCF for the first time and getting in as a 3 seed? Even we see 2 Dublin teams here, and how well do you think what are their chances? I think it's their first UCF, and we shrank it down, and they still managed to get in for the first time after we shrunk it.
Yeah, they seem to have this kind of same approach we had this year, where they said, "Look, we're gonna put all our energy into 2 tournaments and try and get a good seed, instead of these other teams that we see playing 20 ranked games." And it's like, if you can get all your best players to 20 ranked games, good for you. But I think some teams this year might realize, hey, if we'd actually just maybe spent an extra 2 hours discussing how to qualify for this tournament, they might have actually got in ahead of some of these teams. So, the top 20-ish teams, if you're in the 17 to 20 bracket, I think maybe you might need to have a chat with your leadership if you didn't really have a serious plan how to qualify this year. That's why we're kind of seated higher than we should be with 3SB, but we planned for it, and we actually wanted to try and get a 4th seed, and on the Saturday of summer tour we were there. So leadership is actually a lot more important now, planning out your season. So we'll see how
Got to
it
know
goes.
how to play your way into the system. All right, let's bring in the 2 seeds, and we'll get our final thoughts on all these pools. So Pool A, last number ranked 8 team, 1 tribe. You didn't get your Pool A there, John Duck.
Disaster. Now
Let's
you're
see
going,
if you see it's
avoid this, otherwise the computer's going out the window.
We'll go to Pool B, the 7th ranked team,
Ah!
3SB.
It's all good. We get a weird 3-way tie.
Yeah. Pool C, Chuck from Pornichet, France. And Pool D, Chevron, Action Flash from Water Orton, apparently. So, yeah, I think on a couple sides here, I'm not sure that Wall City would be the happiest getting the Chevy matchup in the 2 seed. I think that's maybe one of the tougher ones in the 2 seed bracket. And 3SB, you said you wanted to avoid that Clapham Gentle pool. Quixote is also not slouches either. So you're in this kind of, I would say that's one of the tougher pools that when I'm looking at this right now. But since John, we gave you the first chat, let's see, Christian, what are your thoughts here looking at these pools?
Yeah, I think the 2 teams that everyone was hoping to avoid were Chevy in the 2 seeds and Gentle in the 3 seeds. So bad luck to all the teams of them. Yeah, Chevy's another, they've been playing really well this year. They've beaten Wall City, I believe. So that should be a very exciting matchup. I think if this were 2022, Pool C would be the pool of death. But all of these teams maybe a couple of years past their absolute peak, but they'll have something to say about that, I'm sure. But yeah, I think this is primarily a sort of slightly negative draw for Wall City and 3SB.
That's the curse of coming on the show. You're going to have to just what happens, it seems like. Yeah, so I looked here. Yeah, Wall City indeed lost to Chevron 15-13 at the Elite Invite. And I'm just checking if Lafota and Chalk have played each other. I think they were both at Tom's tourney, but I don't know if they had any games. Yeah, they did play at Tom's tourney. Lafota winning that one 14-9. Chalk actually got a win against Clapham at Tom's, but that's not who they matched up with here. I don't think Clapham. I know Clapham and 3SB haven't matched up because 3SB hasn't. Have you matched up with any teams in the top 16 this whole season?
No, we made sure we avoided that. We wanted to play EUCF.
And then Mooncatcher's 1 tribe have not played each other either. So, yeah. John, what are your thoughts? You can start from 3SB perspective, but also thinking a bit more globally for the fans about the rest of this.
I mean, I guess I would say in pools A and C, I think if you exclude the top teams, I think each of those teams would think this is a pretty good situation. I don't think anyone thinks, oh, that's a team we would not be able to beat. I think they're the most likely ones to get to have 3-way ties or stuff like that. Pool D, I think, yeah, the top 2 is going to be a fun game. I haven't seen that much of group playing this year, but I know last year I kind of always think the Costa Rica Grandes they tended to do pretty well last year. I had them picked to cause an upset in their pool, and I think they topped their group. And yeah, just in the 3SB one, yeah, I think if I was to pick the seed in each one I didn't want, in terms of third and fourth seats, I would not have wanted Gentle. Probably wouldn't have wanted the Spanish lads either. It's a lot more running when you're chasing those kind of teams. So it's a tough draw for us, but we've been pretty fortunate this season. So maybe we can cause an upset, or maybe someone else causes some weird results. There's in pool B and D, I think there could be some weird results maybe. So
Yeah, and to add difficulty there, if you're saying that pools B and D are maybe the tougher pools going down, they're the ones that cross over in pre-quarters as well. So the 2 and 3 from pool B and D will cross over, and the 2 and 3 from pool A and C will cross over. So getting into quarters a tougher road if you're not winning in pools B and D as well. So interesting stuff. Christian, any thoughts? Maybe not from, and besides what you said here, let's just looking at these pools. Any other matchups step out to you?
I'd say I'm happy if I'm bad skid. I think they would back themselves to have a chance against Chalk and Ranelagh. I think they're one of these teams that just has been playing together as an O-line for so long that if they can just get their holds and get a couple lucky breaks, they're the 4 seed. I think that'll be most gunning for a 3 or even a 2 seed in these pools. But like you said, I think it's less about the pools themselves and more about how it affects the crossovers. And you really don't want to be the 2nd seed out of Pool D having to play the 3rd seed out of Pool B, because that's going to be a hard matchup no matter what. You're not getting an easy crossover. And yeah, we're not talking much about Pool A because I think we all see Moon just cruising to victory there.
Yeah, I mean, one tribe stepped out this season, started off with a 15-9 win at Italian Nationals against Lafota, and have been kind of riding that. Of course, their results, I did run the algorithm without that game, and they still were a top 16 team, so they're still very strong. I know they didn't do that well at the summer tour they played recently, but they were missing Angela, who's one of their top offensive players. So I do think they could be sneaky good, and I think that this is a pool where they could come second. So if they had been in maybe one of the other pools, they wouldn't have been as comfortable doing that. I'll be interested to see how that crosses over with this. I think Pool C is actually pretty strong. I saw Chalk at Spring Tour, and I thought they were still very good. I think the French, I think for some reason, are always kind of overlooked, but they have a lot of strong youth players coming up and are super athletic, super fast, and yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Pool A will be a bit more of a chalky way it's kind of going, and the pools B and D are the stronger ones, but I think Pool C has definitely room for some intrigue as well. And we'll see. That's tough. I think it's also a tough draw for Lafota. Those are types of teams I think could match up decently against them on their best days. All right. That's it for the pools, for the pool reveal. So I'll just close out by curious to ask you or anybody in the chat. We've had this whole season. We've now used this season to qualify teams for EUCF. And now we've used a pot draw to form pools at the EUCF, using that ranking and putting teams in those pots. How do you feel about this overall as a system? And I know John's probably not super happy with how the luck went his way compared to how it went earlier this morning. But yeah, maybe stepping a bit outside of 3SB's lens and just looking at it more globally. How do you feel this is all gone?
Yeah, I like this. I think it's a bit tough when you're in that like very close to Euros thing, and it's a bit outside your control at the end whether you can get in or not, how other teams can affect it. So I feel like if there was a way next year where it's like a more a way, it's like more of a game to go just for like those teams really on the edge. I realize it's almost impossible to arrange it in advance, but I just feel like with the Heidi's thing, it's like 1 point in any game all season would have made the difference. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen them much this year, but when they didn't get in, I was like, that's good. I wouldn't like to play them. And, it was just like, it was a bit unfortunate because I think when they play well, I feel like they're probably a top 16 team. So, it's just a bit unfortunate that they 1 more point. It's a bit harsh, but mm-hmm. I mean, I think overall the system's good. I feel like you do mostly get the best teams, and 16 is good. It's competitive. There's no teams there that you're like, they're not that good. So I think 16 teams is an improvement, and it makes all the games better. There shouldn't be really too many games where you're like, oh, this is not worth watching. They're all going to be good. So think it's a good
And
system.
what do you think about, maybe I'll put this to Christian, doing a pot draw? There was a discussion we had, since we actually now have a ranking, we could have just done snake seeding. The pot draw adds a bit more randomness, a bit more flavor, and also one other aspect of it that I think we thought about is that if it was snake seeding, then teams might start thinking, okay, we should try to aim for this ranking because then we can avoid Clapham or whatever. And like, then you start to like, oh, we don't want to incentivize teams to lose games, right? I think the system works well if everyone's incentive is to do as well as possible within the system. And if you were to have exact snake seeding, maybe that would play with that a bit, but I'm curious what you thought of that.
I'm a big fan of the algorithm generally. I'm not sold yet on the pot draws, mostly because I think for a lot of these teams, there's a really solid difference between the 1 and the 4 seed. So I think you could make a case that moon catchers have earned that distinction. And there's a big difference between the 5 and 8 seeds who are looking to upset them. And so I do sympathize with the 1 seed who gets the 5 seed and says, hey, what were all these wins for? What were all these blowouts for? I tend to think that the shenanigans about messing with your seed, it never really works out. It always backfires. You don't have full control. You lose the games you thought you were going to win. So I don't personally fear that so much. But I think it's exciting, and I'm willing to see how it goes, and interested to hear which teams say, hey, we got knocked out because of the unlucky pot draw. Maybe the 4th seed in Pool B just thinks we were a top 10 team and we just got crazy unlucky or something. But I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm not strongly against it. I think it's exciting. I love the experimentation. I think it's worth doing.
And John, as someone who is maybe more on the side of liking to game things, if there's a way to game something and find yourself in the right ranking spot, do you think the pot draw is a good disincentive to not make you not worry so much about that? Or do you think that maybe it should just be snake and just handle it since we have a ranking?
I don't think it makes a big difference. I think you just want to, like, when you know it's like this group of 4s, it's kind of good. Like we knew after our first game on the Sunday on the final day, it's like, yeah, okay, we're not top 4 anymore. We just screwed it up there, but we need to just make sure we do well in the next game because it keeps us in the 5 to 8. And I don't think it makes much difference. You're going to have to play one of those top teams anyway. So yeah, maybe you can get a little unfortunate, but you still have to lose like a crossover to someone from the other brackets. So even if you manage to get the exact pool you want, unless you're planning on beating the top seed, you also need to think, oh, well, do we want to get the crossover we want as well? And so a bit of randomness just means there's less thinking to it. The only thing I noticed a bit funny this year at the end of the year was when we were trying to get some blowouts, teams didn't like the fact that we were celebrating so hard when the score was like 14-6 and we put in the last point. And then in the huddle after, they're like, I don't know why you guys were celebrating so much. The game was over half an hour ago. You beat us by 10 points. And we were like, if you scored one more, you screwed our season. So it's not to us that we beat you by 10 points. But that's just something some of the lower down teams maybe aren't aware of. And it was a bit funny this year. I found that at Summer Tour.
That's super interesting because, yeah, I think that for me, that's like an advantage of the system because it gave you something to play for when you had a team that you were imbalanced with. But like then if they don't understand why that's important, then I guess it could be super weird for them to see like why.
Explain it to 3 different teams at Summer Tour why it was,
oh yeah?
Yeah, because we needed to get I think we had to get 3 blowouts on Saturday and we got 3 of them. And 2 of them was like the other team got 6 points. So like 14-6 was like universe.
Yeah.
They were just like, all right, guys, calm down. And I was like, blame the ranking system, don't blame me.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks Rahel also for joining earlier in the show. And we're all set. We'll be back with you at the EUCF. Oh yeah, this is the one thing that we have a little bit of time. I'll get your opinion. So one other idea that's been floated around was also floated around by Ulti World, I think, for the U.S. Nationals. That's kind of like a half joke, but a half serious idea. Is that what if like the top seeds of the pools get to have a draw for their pool? So basically, you go like pool A1 through 4, you get a really big advantage because now like you invite leaders from all 4 of those teams, and then you start and you kind of snake it. So like the first seed gets to pick first. Out of all the 16 teams, what do you want to put in your pool? then pool next one gets to pick, and then you kind of go, and then the fourth one gets to pick twice, and then you kind of go backwards, and then you kind of go forward. So basically, it's like the top seeds get to pick which teams they would like to play against. What do y'all think of a system like that? Yeah,
Absolutely love it.
Force teams to throw shade at the lower ranked teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're F those guys. 3SB first pick, F those guys.
Yeah, love the way it engenders the competition, and maybe you could even do something where you sort of pay it forward, where the 2 seeds can pick the 3 seeds based on their position. So there's sort of a game theory of who do I pick, and who are they going to pick? But no, I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah, I am curious. We'll get a note here from our director that would this be as fun in open division as in other divisions? I wonder if other divisions would maybe take it a bit less. Wouldn't be as happy with it, and wouldn't be as happy with the like shade being thrown at them by being picked first or something like that. But something we definitely check into. It's on our radar as the EUF competition committee, but we're not yet totally seriously considering it. But maybe if some people say that this is a great idea, we'll take a think, because I think it'd be entertaining. The show we would get to make with like having the 4 people on and do it live, where they actually get to pick the pools and like build it up. I think that would be super fun. I'm just not sure the whole Ultimate community would be ready for it. Or if it's really like from a competition standpoint, really the fairest way to make a competition. I don't know. But yeah, all right. Thanks to y'all. Thanks to Rahel. Thanks to everybody. And we will see you in a few more weeks. I think September 27th to 29th, EUCF coming up soon. So Worlds wrapping up this week, and then we got to get right back into clubs. So we'll see you at the end of September. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ravi. Have a good night.